Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a close look at a 77-year-old industry giant, Robert Half, that the market is basically pricing as if it's going out of business. This company has seen it all, weathered so many economic storms, but this time, well, the market is betting it won't survive. We're going to dig into exactly why everyone is so scared, and maybe more importantly, why they might be dead wrong.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The central puzzle we're trying to solve is right here. How can a company that's a leader in its field with this long, successful history be trading at a price we haven't seen since the economy was just crawling out of the global financial crisis? I mean, seriously, what is going on here?
And this slide just lays out the contradiction perfectly. On one side, you've got the company itself, which looks like an absolute fortress. We're talking zero long-term debt, a huge pile of cash, a dividend they've raised for 23 years straight, and a CEO who knows the business inside and out. But then you look at the stock, and it's telling a completely different, terrifying story. A price at a 15-year low, net income that is just cratered, margins that are razor-thin, and, get this, almost a quarter of the available stock is being bet against by short sellers. The market isn't just worried, it's panicked. To really make sense of this, we first have to get past that simple label of staffing firm. We need to understand what Robert Half actually does. Because, as you'll see, the business is a lot more complex and, frankly, a lot more interesting than you might think. Now, what's really fascinating here is the mix. Sure, about 55% of their revenue comes from placing temporary workers. And yeah, that part of the business is super cyclical. It booms when the economy's great and gets crushed in a recession. But look at that other big piece of the pie. 37% comes from a unique consulting business. This is the company's secret weapon, its anchor, giving it a stable stream of income that helps it ride out the very storms that sink its competitors. And that consulting arm? It's called Productivity. This is not just some little add-on. It's a serious global firm. And they're focused on some of the most critical, in-demand areas for businesses today. We're talking internal audits, risk management, cybersecurity, even AI governance. These aren't just buzzwords. These are industries with massive long-term growth ahead of them. This is the strategic asset that separates Robert Half from the pack. And the origin story of Productivity is just so telling. Back in 2002, when the accounting giant Arthur Andersen collapsed after the Enron scandal, Robert Half's management didn't even blink. They jumped right in, scooped up thousands of world-class consultants who were suddenly out of a job, and built this entire division from the ground up, organically. It just shows you this is a leadership team that knows how to spot an opportunity in the middle of total chaos. Okay, so we've got a business with a solid, diversified model and this absolute gem in Productivity, which of course makes the stock's performance even more of a head-scratcher. If the business is so strong, why is the stock in the gutter? Well, let's unpack the bear case, because the market's fears are based on some very real and very ugly numbers. It starts right here. An 80% collapse in net income in just 3 years. I mean, let that sink in for a second. This is not a small dip. It's a catastrophic drop that makes investors question everything about the company's ability to make money. It's what happens when a business with high fixed costs sees revenue fall. Profits don't just dip, they completely evaporate. This is the kind of number that sends Wall Street running for the hills. And this is the engine behind that collapse. Operating margins have been squeezed from a really healthy 13.5% all the way down to a measly 1.4%. The market sees this number and basically assumes these terrible margins are the new normal, that they're permanent. This is where those big fears about AI and freelance platforms really start to bite. The bears are arguing the good old days of high-margin staffing are gone for good. And beyond the pure numbers, the fears are structural, and you can't just ignore them. First, what if this isn't a normal downturn, but a long, painful white-collar recession? Then you have the huge existential threat of AI. Will technology just automate away the very jobs Robert Half fills? And hey, let's not forget platforms like Upwork, which are literally trying to cut out the middleman. All of this puts the company's dividend at risk. And that massive short interest? Well, that's a multi-billion-dollar bet that these fears are about to become reality. But what if the market is wrong? That brings us to the other side of the argument, the contrarian bull case. This is the bet that the market is making a classic mistake. It's confusing a really brutal, cyclical storm for a permanent change in the climate. The bull case starts with the foundation, the balance sheet, and honestly, it is a thing of beauty. This company has zero long-term debt. In a world where so many companies are loaded up with debt, Robert Half is a fortress. This gives them incredible flexibility and staying power to ride out this storm, no matter how long it lasts, a huge advantage that the market seems to be completely ignoring. Now, this is the most important part of the bull thesis. It's management's big strategic bet. They have deliberately let their margins get crushed because they've refused to fire their best recruiters. They are intentionally carrying extra staff and taking the hit right now based on one simple bet. When hiring comes back, and it always does, they will be fully staffed and ready to grab all that new demand. They're sacrificing profits today for what they believe will be a massive, rapid profit explosion tomorrow.
And you want to talk about skin in the game? The CEO has personally watched his stake in the company fall by nearly $70 million, and he hasn't sold a single share. He holds way more stock than he's even required to. That's not just talk. That's a powerful signal of deep, unwavering belief from the one person who knows this business better than anyone.
And all this time, while the staffing side is just weathering the storm, Protiviti is playing its part, acting as both an anchor and a growth engine. Its revenue has stayed steady, and its international business is actually growing. By being in these high-demand, non-cyclical areas, Protiviti gives them a competitive advantage that a pure staffing firm just can't touch.
So, you've got this huge tug-of-war, a powerful bear case on one side and a really compelling bull case on the other. How will we know which one is right? Well, the great thing about this investment thesis is that it's testable. There are very specific things we can all watch to see how it plays out. Here's your scorecard. First, you gotta watch sequential revenue. Quarter over quarter, is the bleeding stopping? Is it starting to grow again? Second, and this is the big one, what happens to operating margins when revenue finally turns? That's what will prove or disprove that talent hoarding bet. Third, is Providity picking up steam? And finally, what do they do with the dividend? That decision will tell you everything you need to know about their confidence. So in the end, it really all boils down to this one question. Is the market right? Has the entire climate for white-collar work permanently changed for the worse? Or is this just a really, really bad storm that will eventually pass? The answer is going to determine whether this 77-year-old company is a value trap or one of the greatest buying opportunities of the decade.